That's all. Okay, so we will begin with the teachings today, and as it is customary, before the beginning with the actual teaching, we need to have some preliminary stages. And in this, Rinpoche has chosen to begin by giving an explanation of one of the verses that our teacher Buddha Shakyamuni has given. It's a verse that the Buddha himself has given out of his own experience after countless aeons of training and practice. The verse, which is a very well-known verse, is the one that says, "Do not commit any negative action. Commit only positive actions. Subdue your mind thoroughly." This is the teaching of the Buddha. These are the actual words of the Buddha, and therefore they carry the great blessing of the speech of the Buddha. They are of great benefit to our mind. And in a sense, you could say that they summarize, they introduce, and they explain the subject matter of all the teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha has given countless teachings, but you could say, what is the subject matter? What are those Buddhist teachings all about? And those verses actually indicate what are the Buddhist teachings about. They introduce the Buddhist teachings, and they give us an idea of what is the meaning of all these teachings, like thousands, endless teachings that the Buddha has given. And therefore, this is considered to be an introduction to the Buddhist teachings. In one sense, you could say that if you understand that verse alone, that is enough. You wouldn't need anything else. And therefore, Rinpoche said, I feel that it will be appropriate to elaborate and explain a bit the meaning of this verse. Right, so if we look at the verse, it begins, so the first line of the verse says, "Do not commit any negative action." So we begin with the principle, understanding the principle that we all share something in common. And the commonality that we have is that all of us wish to experience happiness, and nobody wishes to experience any suffering. So if we do not wish to experience any suffering, it is important that we recognize what is the cause of suffering and then abandon the cause that brings about that suffering. And we understand that the cause of suffering is negativity, non-virtuous actions that come about by being influenced by afflictions such as attachment and hatred and so on and so forth. So if we do not wish to experience any suffering, it is important that we totally abandon all these negative actions that are the causes for it. The second line says, establish perfect virtue. And establish perfect virtue is very important because all of us wishes to experience happiness. If you ask around, there is no one who would deny this. Everybody says, I want to experience happiness. So if we want to have the experience of happiness, it's very important that we establish its cause. And the cause of our happiness is virtue. And therefore, the verse says, only establish perfect virtue. So now when we talk about happiness, there is, of course, happiness, physical happiness, and there is mental happiness. The physical happiness is a happiness that comes in relation to the body, and it's something that comes about through the senses. However, from the two types of happiness, mental happiness is the one that is the most important to us. And mental happiness comes from establishing virtue. Virtue is something that we can establish through our body, our speech, our mind. And by establishing that mental happiness, what happens is that we increase our merit. So increasing our merit is something which is very significant because once our merit increases, not only we experience happiness, but also we safeguard ourselves from harm. So humans and non-humans cannot actually create problems or harm us in any way. Once our merit begins to decline, this is when they find the opportunity to cause problems and harm to us. And therefore, we should focus on establishing virtue in all three ways, through body, speech, and mind. And for that reason, this mindfulness, the four types of mindfulness, is quite relevant to this. So focus on establishing virtue. Then the next line is a very important line that says, subdue your mind thoroughly. Okay, so this third line that says, subdue your mind thoroughly, it's, as I say, is a line of great importance. Now, we are talking about subduing the mind, and the thing is that in most cases, our mind is not subdued. As long as we fall under the influence of afflictions, such as, for example, attachment or hatred or ignorance, the mind becomes unsubdued. The mind becomes unruly. There is no way that your mind can be subdued if you're influenced by attachment or hatred or any other of those afflictions. So it's very important to, first of all, recognize the role of the afflictions. And if you see that you are under their influences, it's important to apply an antidote as soon as possible. So this expression that says to subdue the mind ultimately refers to transforming your mind so that your mind will become noble. Your mind will become a better type of mind. And what we mean by this is to cultivate a mind that wishes to benefit others. And if we want to look at the ultimate expression or the ultimate development of a positive, a kind mind, this refers to bodhicitta. So it's very important that we always train to bring about that kindness of the mind, always train towards developing the mind of bodhicitta. And someone who possesses a kind mind, a mind that is wishing to benefit others, that is considerate of others, and so forth, is a person that is always welcomed and recognized by everyone. Often we have this experience when we meet such a kind-minded person, and we say, oh, today I met such a nice person. It was such a good experience. Isn't it? Everybody enjoys, appreciates that. Now, sometimes I know that people think that there is that way of thinking that says in certain occasions it is very important that you show wrathfulness to others, or you show a stern aspect to others, and so forth. Although there's a lot of discussion about this, what we need to keep in mind is that cultivating the kindness of the mind is paramount. And cultivating this kindness of the mind that wishes to benefit others affects the environment around us and affects all the experiences around us. There is this particular saying from the sutras that says, the one who has a kind mind experiences grounds and paths that are kind. The one who has an unkind and negative mind experiences grounds and paths that are negative. So we understand the first part where it says the one who has a positive or a kind mind. And then the line that follows after this talks about grounds and paths. And that in general refers to the environment, but also it refers the path. It refers to how easy things go for you, how lucky, how smooth develop for you. So if you have a mind that is kind, things will turn out in the most easy, in the most beneficial way for yourself. And then the second part of the verse says, the one who has an unkind mind or a difficult mind, for that person, the ground and the path will be difficult. Meaning, if your mind is unruly, if your mind is undisciplined, if your mind is unkind under the influence of the various afflictions, then you will encounter problems and difficulties, and things will not go your way. Therefore, it's very important to always cultivate that kindness of the mind. So when we talk about disciplining the mind, ultimately it refers to cultivating a mind that is kind and considering for others. Plus. Okay, thus, all right, so we continue with this presentation. As we say, it's very important to always cultivate a mind that is kind, and always try to abandon our negativity, always try to establish virtue. The main advice here is to subdue the mind, which ultimately refers to cultivating the mind of bodhicitta. So this is something that we need to train in seriously. Whatever activity we happen to engage, whether we participate in a ritual, in a puja, whether we do our own prayers, or whether we attend some teachings and so forth, it is very important to set the motivation, and the best motivation is the motivation of bodhicitta. As the Gadampa Geshes used to say, there are two activities, one at the beginning and one at the end. And the activity at the beginning is setting the motivation. The best motivation is the motivation of bodhicitta. The activity at the end is making a dedication, a proper dedication. Whatever roots of virtue we create through participating in an activity such as attending the teachings, for example, it is important to safeguard it, because if we generate anger, anger can destroy our root of virtue. And therefore, if we do a proper dedication at the end, then that saves or safeguards whatever root of virtue we have created. So, as we say, very important to have the right motivation and the right dedication. So, the cultivating and establishing the mind of bodhicitta and allowing this to influence all our activities is extremely important. Why? Because the mind of bodhicitta is an amazing type of attitude. Bodhisattvas are not preoccupied with their own well-being. They're not thinking about themselves. They're not thinking about obtaining wealth, or they're not thinking about gaining power, or they're not thinking about this or that pleasurable experience. Bodhisattvas are not thinking about themselves. Bodhisattvas are always thinking of how to bring about the greatest benefit to countless sentient beings, viewing or recognizing those sentient beings as being their mothers. So they always talk about limitless mothers, sentient beings. So the aspiration here is for oneself to be able to reach the state of enlightenment in order to benefit all those countless mother sentient beings, to benefit them because they have all been incredibly kind to us in all our lifetimes, under any circumstances, whatever karma has thrown to us, there have always been sentient beings who have been kind to us. So having recognized that kindness, it's very important to try to repay the kindness. So, for example, when we come here and we listen to these teachings, we should be thinking, whatever root of virtue I accumulate through this activity of listening to the Dharma, I dedicate it towards myself obtaining enlightenment. If I obtain the state of Buddhahood, it will be very easy to benefit sentient beings. It will be very easy to also lead them to the state of Buddhahood. So may I reach the state of Buddhahood through this activity. The most important thing, again, is to be able to increase our merit, to boost up our merit. And the way that we do this is through engaging in virtuous activities, whether they are physical or verbal or mental virtuous activities. So this merit that we have must be increased by all means. And we do this through amassing the accumulation of virtue and through engaging in purification of negativity. So whatever obscurations and negativities we have, this we need to remove. Now, they say that negativity does not have any positive quality other than the fact that it can be removed through the process of confession. So there are many ways that we can engage in this process of purification, such as, for example, employing various mantras and dharanis and so forth. A very popular method, and one of the main methods, is to engage in Vajrasattva meditation and recitation, the recitation of the 100-syllable mantra. So it is said that if we amass 100,000 repetitions of this Vajrasattva, the 100-syllable mantra of Vajrasattva, by relying on the 10 opponent powers, then whatever negativity and obscuration we have created will be removed, eradicated from the root. So this indicates that this is a very powerful method of purification. It is very important to deal with negativity. We cannot allow negativity, once it is created, to remain there unchallenged, right? Why? Because negativity increases. It multiplies every single day. It doubles up every single day. So even though you might start with a very small negative action and you think that this is insignificant, if you leave it untreated, before long, this would have mushroomed or increased into some very heavy and serious amount of negativity. Therefore, we need to rely properly on all the 4 opponent powers for a thorough and complete purification. Also, the great Lama Tsongkhapa has said that whatever negativities and obscurations we have accumulated, all this should be properly confessed and purified by relying on the 4 opponent powers. So let's quickly mention here the 4 opponent powers. The first one is the power of the basis. The power of the basis here refers to refuge and bodhicitta. And as you can see, we have these two, and they cover both those who are inclined towards the lesser vehicle and also those who have the aspiration of the Mahayana, of the great vehicle. So both refuge and bodhicitta is the power of the basis. The second power is the power of repudiation. So repudiation here is recognizing that the activity was a big fault, was a mistake, and to regret this. So regret is very important. They say the stronger your regret is, the stronger the power of your process of purification will also be. So this regret should be sincere, not mere words. So an example we can bring into mind is, imagine that you have 3 people that they shared the same meal and the food is poisoned. And those 3 people, they observe that one amongst them actually gets so sick that they die. The other might get just ill, seriously ill, but do not die. And when you look that your companion has died from having eaten the same meal that you have also eaten, then there is a very strong regret that comes up in your mind and says, I should have never eaten that food. So this type of thought, when you realize that you have ingested poison, this is exactly the attitude we should have with regret when it comes to purifying negativity. So that is the second opponent power. The third opponent power is the power of restraint. meaning that we make the promise that from now on in the future, I will never engage in this type of activity again. And the last one, the last of the four opponent powers, is the power of fully applying the antidote. There are many different antidotes, many activities and practices that can act as antidotes. And these, of course, include recitation of various mantras and dharanis. Even reciting Om Mani Padme Hum can become an antidote. And of course, we mentioned here reciting the 100-syllable mantra of Vajrasattva as an antidote for purifying negativity. So. Okay, so this is enough now as the preliminary preparation, and we can start now with the actual teaching. So begin by adjusting your motivation and saying that I'm here to listen to these profound Mahayana teachings with the ultimate aim of reaching the state of enlightenment in order to benefit all mother sentient beings. With this thought, please adjust your motivation. Yes. So we begin here with the actual part, of which is the Song of the Four Mindfulnesses, composed by the 7th Dalai Lama. We begin with the first verse. It says, on the seat of the immutable union of method and wisdom sits the kind Guru who is the entity of all the refuges. A Buddha who has perfect abandonment and wisdom is there. Forsaking thought of defects, make a petition with pure perception. Not letting your mind stray, place it with admiration and respect. Making your attention unforgetful, maintain it within admiration and respect. So the first one of those four mindfulnesses is to be mindful of the Guru. And this is an issue of great importance. It is closely related with the proper way to rely on the spiritual friend, the Guru. So we have this standard expression that describes our progress in the path that says beginning from the beginning, which is how to properly rely on the Guru all the way up to reaching the state of a non-learner's union. And from this expression also we understand that the first and most important step is to establish this proper and correct reliance on the Guru. If that first step is amiss, if you don't establish a proper correction, but a proper connection with the Guru, then whatever practice and whatever efforts you do following that will not bring the proper results, because from the very beginning, the root of your practice is not established properly. And therefore, we need to understand here who is the Lama. What do we mean by this, the word, the Guru? So have recollection of the Guru or rely on the Guru. Now, we have this verse that says that if you do not recognize as your Guru the person who teaches you even one line of Dharma, then you will end up in the worst possible position. So this indicates that even someone who has taught you one line or one word of Dharma is someone that you should consider as your Guru. And failing to recognize the important role of that person, ignoring and disrespecting that person will bring about the unfortunate results of being reborn in a low caste as a barbarian, engaging in inappropriate activities, and so forth. And therefore, it is very important to have this correct and proper recognition. But here in particular, the verse refers to our root Guru, the root Guru who is kind to us. Now, it says that the proper way to relate to them is to forsake all mistaken appearances. So forsake all mistaken appearances when you meet with the Guru. But also the most important thing is to recognize how fortunate and how important it is to even meet the Guru, to even see the Guru. And this is important during our life when we are obviously alive, but even it becomes very crucial at the very end of our life as we are approaching death. So they say that to be able to have a recollection and make prayers to your guru at the time of death is the best of POA practices. So as you're approaching the time of death, even if you don't have the instructions or the capacity to practice POA, if you can bring into mind your guru and with great faith towards the guru, just recite, let's say, the name mantra of the guru, direct your thought and make prayers to the guru. That will be the best practice of transference of your consciousness. That is the supreme power. All right, I'll take on here. So we're still on the first one, which is mindfulness of the guru. It is. It doesn't matter how or where you visualize the guru, whether you visualize the guru in the space in front of you or whether you visualize the guru at your heart. The most important thing is that you pray single-pointedly with all your focus, all your attention to the guru, as it says here, with admiration and respect. So it is important not to be distracted, not to be disrespectful, not to be forgetful. So, as we say, having this mindfulness of the guru is closely related to properly relying on the guru. As Lama Tsongkhapa has said, all the goodness and happiness in this and future lives entirely relies on the proper reliance on the guru. Therefore, it's very important that we properly rely on the guru. In terms of relying on the guru, there are two ways to rely. We rely through attitude and we rely through action. So relying through attitude here, in this we have two. So the first one is called faith, the root, and that indicates how important it is to have faith towards the Lama. And second one is by recalling his kindness, have respect for the Guru. So these are the two main principles of relying in terms of your attitude to the guru. The second one, which is relying through your activities, it means that you practice exactly as he or she advises you. So if they tell you to do something in a particular way, you do it in this way. So at the second part of the verse, we can see all of those elements. So it says, forsaking thoughts of defects, meaning don't have any thoughts, don't see any faults in the guru. You make a petition with a pure perfect perception, so single-pointed concentration when you make these prayers. Don't let your mind go astray, so don't be distracted, don't be forgetful, and place your mind with admiration and respect. And this is the way to have the first recollection, the first mindfulness, which is the mindfulness of the guru. This completes the presentation of the first of the four mindfulnesses, and now we will continue with the second one, which is mindfulness of bodhicitta. Okay, so we continue with the second verse. It says, in the prison of the suffering of limitless cyclic existence, wander the six types of sentient beings bereft of happiness. Fathers and mothers who protect you with kindness are there. Forsaking desire and hatred, cultivate an endearment and compassion, not letting your mind stray, place it with compassion, making your attention unforgetful, maintain it with compassion. So obviously this is here mindfulness of bodhicitta, mindfulness of compassion. Or as it says, do not let your mind stray. Don't let your mind wander here and there. Just remain focused, looking on the suffering that sentient beings experience in cyclic existence. So look at their suffering and without being forgetful, just generate the thought that says, wouldn't it be nice if they were free from their suffering? So cultivate compassion. Okay, so if we look at the explanation here, it talks about all sentient beings who have been extremely kind to us, and we generate the mind of compassion that wishes them to be free of suffering. This mind of compassion is an extremely important attitude to cultivate. So we see, for example, that Master Chandrakirti, at the very beginning of his work, Entry into the Middle Way, begins by praising great compassion. It is customary at the beginning of those classical texts to find praise for the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. However, we see that Master Chandrakirti offers praise to compassion. He says that compassion is extremely important at the beginning, at the middle, and at the end. Once we establish compassion, compassion itself has the power to induce or bring about either other higher grounds and paths and other qualities. So, for example, once we establish compassion, eventually that can lead to the development of bodhicitta. Compassion is very important at the beginning. It's similar to having a seed. And it is very important in the middle because it nurtures and sustains, similar to providing water and fertilizer and all the proper growing conditions. It's very important at the end because at the end is like the fruit or the crop that has come into maturity and can be enjoyed by all. If we look at the development of love and compassion and so forth, compassion has to come first. And following that, once we establish proper compassion, that brings about the attitude of special intention. And only after we have special intention, we generate the mind of bodhicitta. Special intention is the attitude that says, I will do it. I will lead all sentient beings to the state of Buddhahood. And actually, this is not a mind that comes naturally. It's not a mind that comes easily. And without having established proper compassion, we will not be able to generate special intention. Therefore, we see one of the great qualities of compassion is that it induces and brings along higher states, higher achievements that are necessary for developing bodhicitta and so forth. Yes. We have completed the first one, which is mindfulness of the Guru, and the second one, which is mindfulness of compassion. We'll continue now with the third verse, which is mindfulness of your body as the deity, as the Yidam. In the divine mansion of great bliss, pleasant to feel, abides the divine body, which is your own body of pure aggregates and constituents. A deity with the three bodies, inseparable, is there. Not conceiving yourself to be ordinary, practice divine pride and vivid appearance. Not letting your mind stray, place it within the profound and the manifest. Making your attention unforgetful, maintain it within the profound and manifest. So this particular verse refers to our practice of meditating on the deity. When we perform this deity meditation, we must establish the visualization of the deity. The deity must appear. So the way that we establish this appearance of the deity is by causing a mind of great bliss that realizes emptiness to appear as the deity. So the deity that we establish is the deity that unites or includes the three different bodies, such as the form body, the enjoyment body, the emanation body. And once we establish this type of deity body, this type of visualization, we must meditate on it, placing divine pride and clear appearance. So, as it says here, do not conceive yourself to be ordinary, practice divine pride and vivid appearance. Do not let your mind stray. So, again, remain focused, remain concentrated, and place it within the profound and the manifest. The profound here refers to emptiness. And the manifest refers to the appearance of the deity's body. So this profound emptiness that is realized with pristine wisdom of great bliss is united with the appearance of the deity's body in a way that they become non-dual, that they become inseparable. So when we do this visualization of the deity, the visualization of the deity has to be, or the deity, the meditation of the deity has to be established through a certain basis, a foundation. And our ordinary contaminated body and aggregates and so forth are not suitable to establish the deity. The deity is never established from this. Therefore, we need to understand what is the basis for establishing the deity. So the basis that establishes the deity is, first of all, a mind that realizes emptiness. But it cannot be just an ordinary realization of emptiness. It has to be pristine wisdom of great bliss that realizes emptiness, right? And from that, we cause that mind to appear as the deity. So there is nothing ordinary there. And therefore, it says, place your mind within the profound and the manifest, making your attention unforgetful. So do not be distracted. Do not forget this. Maintain it within the profound and the manifest. So maintain the divine pride and the clear appearance. So it talks here about the profound and the manifest. The profound refers to emptiness. The manifest, or the clear, refers to the body of the deity. And the instruction is that we need to meditate by combining these two in an indivisible manner. We have covered the first three types of mindfulness. The first one is the mindfulness of the guru. The second one, mindfulness of compassion. The third one is mindfulness of the yidam. And we continue with the last one, the fourth one, which is mindfulness of the view of emptiness. The first verse of that says, throughout the circle of appearing and occurring objects of knowledge, pervades the space of clear light, the nature of phenomena, the ultimate and inexpressible mode of being of objects is there. Forsaking mental fabrications, look to the entity of immaculate emptiness, not letting your mind stray. Place it within the nature of phenomena, making your attention unforgetful. Maintain it within the nature of phenomena. So it begins by talking about the variety of appearing objects. We are surrounded by all of those objects, but there pervades a space of clear light, the nature of phenomena. This refers to reality, the way that all phenomena exist, which is the ultimate nature of phenomena. And this is the inexpressible mode of being, the reality of emptiness. As it says here, forsake any mental fabrications and look to the entity of immaculate emptiness. Look at the reality, look at how phenomena truly exist. Not letting your mind stray, place it within the nature of phenomena. Recognize that phenomena lack true existence. They appear to exist in this way, but in reality, they do not exist the way they appear. Making your attention unforgetful, meaning without forgetting this, just focus on this thing alone, maintain it within the nature of phenomena. So keep in your mind the reality of phenomena, which is emptiness, the lack of their true existence. If we look at the first verse that refers to recollection of the view of emptiness, The first three lines, through the circle of appearing and occurring objects of knowledge pervades the space of clear light, the nature of phenomena, the ultimate and inexpressible mode of being the objects is there. It refers to emptiness that applies or is there to every type of phenomenon, whether it is the person or phenomena other than the person. Now, and then it says, and this is an inexpressible mode of being for all the objects. Forsaking mental fabrications, look to the entity of immaculate emptiness. There is a lot of discussion about emptiness, what it means, and there is quite a lot of misapprehension as well. There are a lot of people who, when they hear the term emptiness, since we are negating something, they think that it refers to nothingness, like that there is nothing there. And indeed, when you hear when you read the Heart Sutra, it says there is no form, there is no sound, there is no smell, there is no taste, and so forth. But what does it actually mean? Because forms exist, and sounds exist, and smells exist, and so forth. So what is this negation? What is negated here? What is empty of? Although they exist, we don't negate the fact that they exist. We negate the fact that of existing the way they appear, because they appear to exist in a way that is independent without relying on anything else. So this is exactly what we say they are empty of. They are empty of not relying on others. They are empty of being independent. And ultimately, they are empty of having this intrinsic nature. Although they appear to exist in this particular way, in reality, they do not exist the way they appear. So this is what it says: forsake all the mental fabrications. Look at the entity of immaculate emptiness, not letting your mind stray. So again, remain focused, remain single-pointed. Place it within the nature of phenomena, which is the nature of emptiness, that applies to and pervades all types of phenomena, making your attention unforgetful. So do not forget this, and maintain the mind within the nature of emptiness, which is a negation of any true existence or intrinsic existence of phenomena. The verse that follows that is, at the crossroads of the variety of appearances and the six consciousnesses is seen the confusion of the baseless phenomena of duality. The illusory spectacles of a deceiving magicians are there, not thinking they're true. Look to their entity of emptiness, not letting your mind stray. Place it within appearance and emptiness, making your attention unforgetful. Maintain it within appearance and emptiness. We have two verses here, because the first verse refers to the realization of the emptiness that occurs during equipoise. But then when we move out of equipoise into the phase of post-equipoise, again, we are bombarded by the appearances, conventional appearances of all phenomena. So the second verse refers to what happens in post-equipoise. And this is described through the expression of the space-like equipoise in the space-like equipoise concentration during equipoise, and the illusion-like equipoise in post-equipoise. So we have two types of concentrations. One is like the space-like, which is the emptiness, and the other one is the illusion-like, which happens during post-equipoise. So we say that it is like an illusion because all these phenomena that appear to us in post-equipoise, they appear to be truly existent, inherently existent from their own side without depending. But all of this is an illusion. And therefore it says, do not think that any of this that appears in this way is true. Look into the entity of emptiness, not letting your mind stray. place it within appearance and emptiness. So again, we have to place the mind and practice in a way that unites appearance and emptiness in an indivisible manner. So these two things should be inseparable. Phenomena, conventional phenomena appear. We're not negating this. They appear, but they do not exist the way they appear. They do not exist inherently, intrinsically. They appear whilst they are empty. And whilst they are empty, they appear. These appearances can take place. So these two have to be united indivisibly. So do not think of them as true, even though they appear. Remember that they're empty, even though they appear in a different way. So because this happens, because there is this discrepancy, they are like an illusion. They appear to be truly existent, but in reality, they are empty of true existence. So make your attention unforgetful. Do not forget that principle and maintain it within appearance and emptiness. Okay. So these we're still talking about conventional appearances that appear to us as if they are totally independent. They exist in an independent way without relying on anything else. So this is something that we have to completely forsake, because there is nothing that exists that has not been established through dependent origination. Dependent origination is the Buddhist view, and it is that Buddhist view of dependent origination that supports the Buddhist contact, which is the contact of not causing harm to other sentient beings. In the view of dependent origination, it is very important to define and comprehend properly. According to the Middle Way Consequent School, we talk about phenomena existing through being merely imputed by the mind. And again, a lot of people hear this, that phenomena are merely imputed by the mind, and the mind generates the thought that actually there is nothing there. It's just like the mind imputing or the mind fantasizing that this and that exist. However, this is not the case. Even by looking at the term dependent origination, each one of these two words, they give us a specific meaning. The first one, dependent, tells us that nothing exists from its own side intrinsically without relying on other things. But the second word, origination, is telling us that this entity actually exists. It is here. It's not just that the mind merely imputes things that do not exist. Things exist, they have originated, and they have originated through a process of depending and relying upon other entities. So this is the idea of dependent origination. Conventional phenomena exist. We have production, we have disintegration, and so forth. However, none of those things exist inherently, intrinsically from its own side. And this is why we say this concept of dependent origination is the fundamental view of Buddhism. If anyone asks you what is the view of Buddhism, this is the view of Buddhism. And then that defines the conduct, which is to avoid harming, avoid cruelty towards others. So in this way, Rinpoche says, I have presented here an explanation of the four types of mindfulnesses. So having completed this teaching today, we have created Root of Virtue. As we said, there are two activities, one at the beginning, one at the end. At the beginning, the main activity is to set the motivation so that we are influenced by bodhicitta. And at the end, the proper activity is to make dedication prayers. So think that whatever virtue I have personally created during these teachings, attending those teachings, listening to these teachings, take this virtue as an example of all the virtue that can be created, and think that I dedicate all this virtue so that I will obtain a precious human rebirth. I will meet again and again with the precious teachings. In reliance on this, I will progress along the grounds and paths. Dedicate so that the teachings will remain for a very long time, continuing to benefit the ordained and the lay people. Dedicate that the ordained Sangha will have stability and prosper and remain for a very long time. Dedicate towards the long life and stability of all the holy beings, all our gurus, all our teachers. May they have long and healthy lives, and may all their projects and aspirations be fulfilled exactly according to their wishes, and dedicate towards peace and prosperity in this world, so that we have no calamities and no war and activities such as this. So just let's heap up all our merit and do the proper dedication at the end.